All right. You know, it's a tough day here at my YouTube channel, Dr. Seth Psychologist, when we are talking about trauma bonds. Trauma bonds, I'll explain what it is, but by the sound of it, it's not good. And the reason we're talking about it is because of a larger reason. I talk a lot on my channel about how one of the most important things we all need in life is real, true, actual confidence. Real, true belief in ourselves, belief that we can do good things, that we are capable of changing and improving our lives. And one of the biggest things that can set a person back from feeling actual confidence is being stuck in an unhealthy relationship, and specifically being in a trauma bond, having an attachment that is extremely dysfunctional. And so let me sort of explain what that is. And ultimately, I will get to why it matters and kind of what we can talk about doing about it. So, trauma bond is a term that was discussed in the late 1990s for the first time in that exact iteration, trauma bond, by someone named Patrick J. Carnes. Patrick J. Carnes is well established as being really known in the field of addiction counseling and counselor education. And so Patrick J. Carnes really kind of popularized this phrase, and it's just become more and more common over time. So, what is a trauma bond? A trauma bond is a dysfunctional emotional attachment that an abuse victim develops with their abuser. Now, what is the overall dynamic? A trauma bond involves the cycle of abuse, which includes intermittent positive reinforcement. The intermittent nature of the positive reinforcement is really important. It means that it does come. You don't always know when the positive reinforcement is coming. It may come out of the blue. It may look different each time. It may be shown as physical affection. It may be shown as emotional affection. It may be shown as financial affection. It may include all these different things. You never know exactly when it's coming, but it usually does come as a part of that cycle of abuse. And in those moments, it makes the abuse victim feel like, well, I guess they really do love me. I guess they really do care. And a lot of times in this dynamic, when the abuser or the exploiter engages in this positive reinforcement, they turn on the love and the charm. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they need to do to try to show love and care and affection, to try to get the other person back, to get the other person in that moment to try to trust them again. And so this whole experience, this trauma bond, this trauma cycle is extremely confusing to a person. Now, here's the question. How does this relate? Being a part of a relationship where there's a trauma bond, how does this relate to confidence? All right, well, let's think about what is confidence. What is true confidence? Imagine having a real anchor deep inside yourself where you know who you are, you know your boundaries, you know what you're worth. You are able to represent yourself. You express what you need. You engage in healthy assertiveness. You don't allow people to mistreat you. All of this is true anchored confidence. Here's what's incredibly important about the relationship between a trauma bond and confidence. A trauma bond, by definition, makes a person question themselves. Being exploited or even abused, having somebody gaslight you and make you question your reality, make you question your logical responses. All of these experiences in a traumatic relationship can make you doubt yourself, question yourself, not trust yourself. That is one of the hallmarks, and I believe the saddest consequence, aside from just being physically hurt or even killed. The saddest consequence otherwise is no longer trusting yourself, no longer trusting your own instincts, feeling like you don't know anymore. You feel so sort of spiritually and emotionally beaten down in some ways. You question reality. You're not sure that what you feel is even correct or right anymore. You need to ask family members or friends if you're not too embarrassed to share exactly what's going on. You need to ask for feedback. But you know what? You become so dependent on the feedback of others because at root, you have lost a certain trust in yourself as a result of the intermittent positive reinforcement, as a result of the cycle of the trauma. The problem is, of course, is when it comes to confidence, what is the foundation of confidence? Think about it. What do you think the foundation of confidence really is? It is trust in yourself. It is belief in yourself. The very thing that the traumatic attachment chips away at is the very thing that you need in order to feel truly confident. Now, a lot of times what happens when someone has a trauma bond with another person, a traumatic attachment, this sort of cycle of exploitation with another person. Well, what happens is after a while, sometimes they find themselves starting to be able to see a little bit more clearly, starting to make sense of the patterns. And they find themselves sometimes starting to get a little stronger. They sometimes start getting a little stronger and a little bit more confident. They're not as easy to manipulate. Okay. Well, guess what happens when the exploiter or the abuser sees the other person starting to get a little bit more confident? What happens? They often start to get scared. They feel threatened. They feel threatened. Why? Because when the other person sees you starting to get a little bit more confident, they are afraid a lot of times that this means that if it continues, you will leave them, that they will lose you. They equate your confidence, they equate you getting confident with you leaving them. And the truth is, maybe that's correct. Maybe if you were to continue to get more confident, maybe you would look closer at this relationship and realize it is not for you. Well, they know that. They know that. The exploiter, the abuser in the trauma bond knows that. And so, what do they do in response when they start to see you getting a little bit more confident? They start chipping away again at that confidence. And in fact, they may even escalate some of their exploitative or abusive patterns to try to teach you the lesson, to make you understand, to take away all that trust that they're starting to see grow in yourself, that confidence, that belief in yourself, because it's a threat. It is very important that you understand it can be very difficult to develop real confidence when you are in the midst of a trauma bond relationship. What can you do about this? What can you do about this going forward? How can you start to heal from a trauma bond? How can you grow confidence and trust in yourself again after you may have felt sort of emotionally, spiritually beaten down, if not physically beaten yourself? Aside from keeping physically safe, you need to keep getting educated about what a trauma bond does, about the cycle of traumatic abuse, about how dysfunctional attachments like this can hold you back, can make you second guess yourself and reality. Reality, the very thing that we all need to accept and live within the bounds of, to be functional, to lead our best lives, to stay not only physically healthy, but emotionally healthy too. So keep getting educated. If seeking out mental health services is an option for you, then do that. There is always help available. There really is, even sometimes when it feels like there's not at all. I want you to remember that. I want you to understand how important trust in yourself is, belief in yourself is, real confidence about how you see things so that you can actually have the life that I believe we were all meant and born to have. One where we have a certain freedom, where we feel good about ourselves, where we feel safe in our environments. All right. All right. I hope this was helpful for you. If it has been, you may find some other videos here on my YouTube channel, Dr. Seth Psychologist, that can be helpful to you as well.